All right, now, European diplomats have been shuttling between the United States and Iranian officials in Vienna over the nuclear negotiations. Now, the talks, remember, have fallen behind in their progress, and senior British, French and German diplomats have now said that without any headway, the talks will soon end up becoming an empty shell. Now, referring to the deal that was originally named as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the JCPOA, the European diplomats said that time is running out without swift progress in the wake of Iran's fast-forwarding of its nuclear program. The JCPOA will very soon become an empty shell, offering a very pessimistic assessment of the efforts that have so far been made in reviving the deal. The so-called E3 diplomats said in a statement that they still have not been able to get down to real negotiations. The diplomats have also said that they've made some significant progress, though, in the 6 rounds of negotiations that were carried out between Iran and the 6 world powers led by the United States between the months of April till June. But in this current 7th round of negotiations, there is very little that has been made in terms of progress as a part of the negotiations because of the hardline stances that both Iran and also the Americans have taken. The E3 diplomats have described Iran's position as inconsistent with the terms of the deal, but the Iranians insist that the only way forward to proceed with the talks is if America guarantees that the financial sanctions will also be lifted. Now, the European delegations are pressing Iran to be reasonable and fall in line with the American demands. But what is happening here is that a lot of time is getting lost in the back and forth over the question of whether sanctions will be lifted or not. Now, Iran's chief negotiator at the talks, Ali Bagheri, has reported that there is some progress that has been made, but he has insisted that until the Americans come round to, in fact, saying that they will be consistent in how they negotiate, it is difficult to progress from here. The Iranian officials maintain that they are very serious about committing to the talks, but the Western nations, according to Tehran, have not shown sincerity in getting the deal back on track. The Bagheri also said that some progress had in fact been made with the world powers, and that could quickly, of course, pave the way for some serious negotiations going forward. Iran has also said that the European nations, however, have failed to offer any kind of constructive proposals in helping to salvage the deal. Remember, Iran so far has put forth 2 proposals which the Americans are not happy with. Now, after the comments from Iran, the US State Department said that it is too soon to say whether Iran has returned to the nuclear talks with a more constructive approach, as expectations grow that the talks are set to fail. Now, Joe Biden had said last week that the United States is preparing additional measures against Iran. Now, the state of Israel, which is not a part of these negotiations, has said that the Americans should not be negotiating with the Iranians to revive the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal. But what is interesting is that the Israeli and American military leaders are all set to discuss possible military drills against Iran in a potential worst-case scenario. The drill is likely to include the destruction of Iranian nuclear facilities. These are some of the options that the Israelis are talking about with the Americans. Now, the 2015 agreement aimed to prevent Iran from developing an atomic bomb. But Iran throughout has maintained that its nuclear program is meant only for civilian nuclear energy purposes. It wants to develop its nuclear program to generate electricity. The JCPOA deal had ensured there would be some sanctions relief in return for the tighter curbs on Iran's nuclear program. Now, Joe Biden has sought for a mutual return to compliance with the deal, but Iran wants Washington to first lift the crippling financial sanctions that the Americans have imposed on Iran. The other countries in the deal are Britain, China, France, Germany and Russia, and they too want this deal to be revived as soon as possible. Remember, it was the Americans who had unilaterally violated the deal in 2018 by walking out of the deal, where Donald Trump had described the JCPOA as the worst possible deal that's been negotiated by Americans in their history. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.